Hey man, I was walking down the street the other day and brother told me his favorite podcast is Streets and Scholars. I was like, wow, that's impressive.
Ah, that's what's up.
I mean, I haven't heard that since I was doing the Gangster Chronicles, man. 2 years ago. You know, people used to say, yeah, man, that podcast is fire. But now they're telling me this one is.
Hey, that's what's up, man.
And that was the one I was doing with Lil Reggie Wright, for those who don't know, and the infamous Mob James.
No doubt.
I mean, I can't believe I sat there for a whole year with this brother.
Hey, man, but y'all had a good thing going. You know what I mean? That inspired, and hey, it was a good thing while I was going.
And I want everyone to know, man, I don't hate Mob James at all. I wish him well. He's a grandfather taking care of his grandson. But I do have some issues with decisions that he made back in 2000, 2001, 2002 when he was doing what he was doing. And there's nothing that anybody can tell me about that. I don't co-sign any of that. But I don't wish any ill will on Mob James. I don't wish anyone to do anything to him. In fact, I want him to continue doing what he was doing. But the only way he can continue doing what he was doing is just to man up and admit to what he did and then move on. That's my only thing. And I just bring that up because I got a couple messages saying that I got some animosity towards the dude, and I really don't as a person, but I do have the issues. You know, my issue is this. The FBI agent Wade Lee, he infiltrated the neighborhood. He's a black man, and I wanted to talk about policing and black cops because I was listening to your interview that you did with former mayor of Compton, Omar Bradley. And he really had some negative things to say about the Compton PD. Obviously, he was pro-sheriff. But when you look at the history of the Compton PD, it was mostly a black police force that knew Compton, that grew up in Compton, and there were very few shootings of Compton residents by those officers because they grew up with everybody over there.
True, but I'm gonna have to go back and correct you on that pro-sheriff statement because I had him sit down with him before, on a personal level, and heard him say that one thing about the sheriff is they didn't know Miss Johnson on this street. They didn't know, Miss Jackson on this street. They didn't police the community with care because they didn't grow up in these neighborhoods in order to, have love for the community. So I do got to come in on that and say that I heard, him say that out his own mouth, that the sheriffs wouldn't come in and take that same approach as far as getting to know the people in the neighborhood.
Exactly.
So I do get what you're saying, though, as far as...
But he ain't pro Compton PD. He got a lot of negative things to say about the Compton PD.
Well, the thing about it is, when you're a mayor, you have to, you the boss of this town. You know what I mean? So you have to make decisions that, benefit the town, not your personal preferences. But I'm certain that if he could have had a black police department in place doing great, he would have preferred that, believe me.
And that's one of the things that I liked about the old Compton PD is that I believe 50% of the police force was black.
Yeah, and a lot of them still lived in the neighborhoods in Compton. You know what I mean? I know a few of them that still lived in the neighborhoods. I know a few of them that you run into at the same bar or nightclub you be at. You know what I mean? And it's not an issue. They carried themselves. Their job was separate from their personal, interactions with you. But at the same time, like you say, with the murder rate like it was, some decisions did have to be made.
Yeah, I mean that's a whole complex situation that he was the mayor and he made some decisions. But it brings me to a thing I was thinking about is how do we look at black cops in the community? Because a lot of us grow up not liking the cops because of experiences that we have as teenagers, and how they're always jacking us up and hemming us up. We're mostly dealing with a majority white police force, no matter where you're at. In LA, Compton, Linwood, it's majority white folks that's hemming you up. But at the same time, if black people are being the police officers and the deputies, a lot of us say they're sellouts, so we can't have it both ways. We're sick and tired of seeing a majority white cops policing our communities. But when we do see brothers in these positions, when we do see black cops, we call them names, right?
Well, I mean, it all depends on how you look at it. Maybe when you look at it as a youngster, you look at it as a kid, man, this black cop always harassing me, or this black cop always taking me to jail, because I have been arrested by the LAPD, I have been arrested by the Linwood Sheriffs, and I have been arrested by the Compton PD. And I had a different interaction with all three of them. But at the end of the day, what you have to realize is I was committing crimes every single time I went to jail. I've never been to jail maybe once for nothing. You know what I mean? So you can look at it like, man, with the police, black or they white, it don't matter what race they are. I committed a crime. They took my ass to jail. Now my experience were all different for each one, but we can't put that jacket on a black man that's trying to feed his family the way he know how or the way he chose to. I don't call them sellouts. I just say that's what job they chose. And at one point, we were just on opposite sides of the fence.
Well, I think a lot of young guys who want to become cops, they think that they can change the world. Like I've heard people say, yeah, I grew up wanting to be a cop because I wanted to make my community great. But when they get into that job, they realize that ain't never going to happen. One cop really is not going to have an impact. But it brings me back to the Mob James situation, because what I blame the most is the FBI infiltrating our communities and using black agents. And when I looked at the whole case, I noticed that Wade Lee, the black FBI agent, that was his handler. And the FBI they hire black people so that they can infiltrate black communities.
No doubt.
Because let me ask you this. If Mob James came walking in that house on Pine Street with a white dude and said, hey, this is my boy from Vegas, would that even have flied?
Everybody in that house would have said, man, you got to get him the fuck up out of here. You know what I mean? No doubt.
And that's the reason why in some instances there are black agents, because this guy could mesh into the community.
They can get themselves into a nightclub and unsuspected. I mean, you're right, and it's definitely a shame. But at the end of the day, these men do sign up. I'm not mad at the agents themselves. You know what I mean? They chose that job. They chose that career. You know what I mean? But on the flip side, would have let them give him a white handler? When you look at it in that aspect, he might even not have went for that himself. You know what I mean? So, don't. My whole thing is, just because dude a brother, don't let him talk you into doing something, man. You've been a gangster your whole life. You know what I mean? So, but this is what's going on. They're using our own to infiltrate, our communities.
Yeah, I'm more critical. I mean, I'm sure you can be critical of a guy like Mob James or whoever decides to become an informant, but it takes government infiltration in the first place in order to flip these dudes. So I'm also critical of the government infiltration, and that's using guys like Wade Phillips, who's a brother that can come in Compton and hang out, and everybody's like, oh, okay, cool. You need some dope? Okay, no problem. Because at the end of the day, what he's doing is dividing the neighborhood. He's dividing the community. The feds are ultimately dividing hoods and creating hate against them. Thanks for watching this video clip of Streets and Scholars podcast with Alex, Alonso, and FG. If you want to listen to the entire episode, go to your favorite podcast platform and type in Streets and Scholars. And thanks for listening to another episode of Streets and Scholars.